Xbox comes to the desktop, and Teams has a bunch of new features. Happy Friday, friends. It is Friday. It is the first Friday in February, which is a little bit of a tongue twister, if you will. A little bit quieter of a week this week for the world of Microsoft, but if you look through the cracks of what they're doing, I think it's starting to foretell some bigger things coming, especially on the Xbox side. However, let's kick it off here with the tech news. Hopefully you had a wonderful week. Let's go. So Teams is getting a new feature, and I say new in feature because it was announced at Ignite, but according to The Verge, this thing is coming very soon, or at least in the first half of 2025. Although Microsoft may have said that, but I think The Verge is saying like it's in testing right now. Anyways, it doesn't really matter. It's an interesting, I don't want to say concept because this thing exists elsewhere, but it's a storyline, which is, if you're familiar with stories, it's like a flow of things that are going on. Now, the hesitation in my voice is that we've already got chat, we've already got channels, and Teams is already a bit of a chunky boy when it comes to performance, so adding more stuff in here is whatever. I'll try to hold too much reservation until I actually try it and see how it works. We use it at work. We're a big team shop, obviously, not alone in that, but I'll be curious to see how it works over at Stardock as we continue to see the evolution of Teams. There's more features coming besides just storyline. Microsoft also announced super resolution. If you have the supported hardware, it will upscale your video to make your pixels look a little bit sharper, I guess. It'll make you look better, right? It's upscaling technology coming to Teams to make your video just look a little bit better. Speaking of making things look a little bit better, that's not really a great segue. Anyways, OCR support is now back live in the Photos app. If you remember, this was available in I think it was November, and then they took it away, and now it's back. So you can select text and do all the OCR things that you know and love if you are on the beta or canary channel of the Windows Insider program. So on the ARM side of life of the Windows world, Qualcomm and ARM have settled their dispute or whatever. At least ARM has withdrawn their complaint in the court, so a whole bunch of money was spent on lawyers fighting this back and forth. This was a license deal, and basically ARM is pulling them back. So I'm guessing Qualcomm won, or ARM just doesn't see it viable. I don't know, which basically would mean Qualcomm won. Anyways, and that their argument was always the correct one. So yeah, take that for what you will. Microsoft also, I found this interesting. Microsoft is also updating the MIDI support, MID, I believe they pronounce MIDI is how most people say it, to the 2.0 protocol. This is the first update since 1983 for that protocol, right? It was announced a long time ago, used heavily by musicians. And so, yeah, I guess that's a cool thing. And so other things that are coming here, Microsoft Build is on its way May 19th through the 22nd, 2025, that is, in Seattle, Washington. We all know what's going to be talked about here. It's going to be AI. It's going to be agents. Did I mention AI? Because that's what it's going to be. It's about deploying your own agents. And this Ignite will be about deploying your own agents. This will be about building your own agents, your own AI experiences. And that's going to be the heavy. And I mean heavy with a capital bold _H focus for Build this year. I would love to hear some more Windows related development stuff, but we know where the bread is getting buttered at Microsoft these days. And so, yeah, not expecting much there outside of that stuff. So on to the gaming news of the week. I think this is probably the biggest Microsoft story, I think, this week, not the PlayStation stuff. But specifically this, what is happening with the Microsoft Store. So Microsoft said, hey, in the store now, you can now download parts of games. You don't have to download the whole game. Now, I was sitting there thinking like, man, I thought we could already do this. And the answer is we can, but on the not on the desktop, that's where you can do it soon here, but on the console. This is a quote unquote Xbox feature. Now, I know other platforms allow this, but I just want to point out a couple connections here, right? This is a feature of Xbox. Suddenly, it's available in the Microsoft Store. What do we think is happening with Xbox in the near-ish future? Like Xbox and Windows coming basically together. I know they're already together in the hypervisor and all that stuff, but blah, blah, blah. Look past that for a second. But if the games experience starts coming truly through the store and like you're blending PC and Xbox together, this is a pretty core feature to the installation process, which just, to me, it feels like the back end of these two different platforms, Xbox and desktop, are coming just a little bit closer together with this functionality. So this is, people are saying like, where's the smoking gun for the Xbox is moving to the PC and all that good stuff. there's not going to be smoking gun until Microsoft just comes out and says it. However, like we're getting these little features all the time, right? We're adding them over and over and over again. Like I think this might all be related. I could be wrong, but I mean, I don't think I am reaching too far to make that connection, if you will. So speaking of connections, more games are connecting over on the PS5 side. So Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition and Age of Mythology Retold are headed to PlayStation 5. I am a big Age of Empires 2 player. I play it a decent amount. I'd say at least a couple times a week, right? Although my play is all just skirmish based. I just play up against the computer. I don't play against other people. I don't know. I just like playing against the computer. And so that is what I like to do. And so it's coming over to PlayStation 5. Here's something else you have to consider. And I don't know how I want to phrase this, but I'll just kind of say it as blunt as possible. Remember when Phil Spencer said, or maybe it was all of Xbox, I cannot specifically remember. Maybe it wasn't Phil. He's like, we're going to try a few games over on PlayStation. And if it works out, maybe we'll bring more. You know, these games have just been dogpiling on to PlayStation 5. So a couple things here are true or relatable or something similar to that. Xbox either has a super efficient, easy process to take any game that is on the Xbox console or maybe PC and magically port it over to PlayStation 5 like in a week. Or they had tons of these games already in development and works on PS5 when that statement was says like, hey, we're just going to try these out. Like we all knew that more were coming. And so I'm curious how long it actually takes to port a game to PlayStation 5 from, I'm assuming PC is probably the common ground, right? You take the PC experience or the PC game files and then you bring those over to PlayStation. It's probably a lot easier, I would imagine, than taking the Xbox and trying to go over to PlayStation. I don't know, but I'm assuming that whatever Microsoft has, they've got it mapped out pretty well about how to do this, considering the rate of games that are going over. So, speaking of games, there is another Game Fest coming, or I should say Fan Fest. So, ID at Xbox is working with IGN to do another indie showcase here. This will be happening February 24th, so that's the end of this month, but that's like 3-4 weeks away. And so, you're going to be getting more games for the console that you probably love or something like that, or at least indie games are always fun games just because they're indie games, right? That's how it works. That is how that works. So, like I said, shorter week this week. However, we do have some questions into the hopper. J. Pete with a banger of a question. He says, fescue or Bermuda? He is attacking my white New Balance shoes that I use to cut. No. So this is a grass related question. I love my fescue. So, Jay, I am too far north for Bermuda. So I am definitely a tall fescue house. And actually in the fall, I overseeded with Snapback RR, which is supposed to be a rhizome based fescue that should spread, which is a new cultivation in the world of fescue grass. God, I'm so old. But typically fescue doesn't spread, but this new strain, if you will, is supposed to spread. It's also supposed to be much darker and deeper green. Although I didn't see a ton of that in the fall. We'll see if that materializes here in the springtime and summertime, and we'll also see how the drought tolerance is, but yes. Sean D says, Brad, did you ever buy that Mac you were contemplating? Because I'm still trying to figure out what the best way to experience Windows on ARM is. Should I wait for these mini PCs that were announced at CES, or should I just buy a new Mac Mini and just throw it on there? So the one hidden cost you have to understand with the Mac Mini is that you're going to need probably Parallels is, I think, the industry leading solution. Although I think there is an alternative, but I think Parallels might be the only certified or whatever official solution where you can download and run Windows on ARM. And so that's an extra, at minimum, $100 on top of your hardware purchase price. So what the Mac Mini is, is it $499? I think it's $599. Let's just check here. I think it's $599. If you have a discount, you can, like an education discount, you can get it for like $499. But remember, you're going to be putting at minimum another $100. So let's hit buy here on this. And starting price, I could not remember. It's $599. So remember, you're going to be $699 in the hole to get up and running here. I guess it really just depends, right? If you just want I don't hesitate to recommend the Mac. I did not buy one just because, I don't know, like I want to buy a lot of things and end up buying nothing. It's usually my personality with this kind of stuff. But I did a lot of thinking about potentially doing this. The first off is if you're buying like a PC that you're going to be using every day, the $599 version probably isn't good enough for what you want to do. You're probably looking closer to the $1,000 range, and because the two things: one, you want as much RAM as you can realistically afford. If you're running this in a VM, the base models come with 16 gigs. The $1,000 option comes with 24, so you can allocate 8 to the core experience, the OS, and then give 16 gigs to that VM, which would probably be sufficient. However, you're still at that price point. You're limited to 512 gigs of storage. I'm not worried about performance. You could go up even higher to the $1,400 option, which would get you a higher performance CPU, but I don't think that's the constraint that you should be worried about. It's realistically, it's storage and RAM. So it's $1,000 plus another at least 100. So you're looking closer to 1,100, which this is where my brain went. It's like, man, I can actually build a pretty banging x86, or I should say like x64, whatever, traditional Windows PC for about $1,100. Granted, you're not getting a high-end GPU, but you can get a nice ripping CPU. And I don't play a lot of PC games, which is why I love the Xbox. It's one purchase, one cost. I don't have to worry about anything. And so you could easily get a pretty high core count traditional Windows experience. But, you know, if you're wanting ARM, I personally would wait just a little bit just to see what they are and see how they price out. I think that is the bigger thing. But I don't want to talk you out of it because I don't think it's a bad experience at the end of the day. Brad, this comes from JR33 something or other. Bunch of numbers on there. When are we getting the Elite Series 3 controller? I would like to get a new one. So I would like to get a new one too. I have not bought a new Elite controller since my Series 2 basically crumbled, which is probably not a great reason why I should buy a Series 3 at the end of the day. However, I don't know. We haven't heard anything. Microsoft has pulled back somewhat on some of their hardware initiatives. I'm hoping we get a Series 3 primarily because it's missing some of the functionality of, I don't have any of the new controllers sitting by me. Right? It doesn't have the share button. It still has the traditional button. Actually, I think it's a mode selector button for which profile is being loaded. So I would love to see Series 3 with Hall effect sticks. I think that is, or joysticks. I think that is a significant upgrade. And then they could also just put that new switch in there. And I think they're probably good to go. Maybe slap a new color out or something like that. But I would definitely be in the market for something like that. So next question, Brad, are you buying any? Oh, sorry. Keep forgetting to say the names. I am going through. So Cregan, we'll say Cregan. Brad, do you have any experience in buying Surface hardware for your office? We really like, or I should say, I think he says, I really like the new Surface stuff, and I'd like to get it for the office. So here's, and he goes on with a long question about the difference between the price points between the Intel stuff and the ARM stuff. Here's what I would tell you. You need to get a connection, and not like a deep, like an account rep at Microsoft. And so Microsoft sales can help you out. And I don't mean like go to their website, like try to find the corporate account rep, because they can get you discounts on the hardware. Now, my understanding is that you can get discounts on the Intel side, but probably not on the ARM stuff. So just keep that in your back pocket as you're trying to negotiate rates. I have no idea what volume purchases always tend to help lowering price points. And if it doesn't work out, Dell and Lenovo and all those guys all make pretty good hardware, and you should be able to find something that fits into the budget. So there you go. Like I said, guys, shorter week not shorter week, but just less news this week. Not every week is as jam-packed. I'm still going to be watching the Xbox stuff closely because that is near and dear to my heart, along with Windows, Teams, and beyond. So as always, my friends, make sure to keep it subscribed here because only BS on this podcast is me.